This past Tuesday evening, we had the Batavia Community Thanksgiving service here, and there were 5 clergy from town, all of whom shared on the scripture readings that they were given to preach on. And it's a service like that always gives one an opportunity to hear a variety of approaches to God's Word and to see how Thanksgiving is expressed and understood in a variety of Christian traditions. And that being said, I bet all of us here today have our own experiences of Thanksgiving Day. Some of us may have very happy memories of Thanksgiving. Some of us may have not so happy memories of Thanksgiving. Maybe we have some humorous stories about the time the turkey wasn't cooked, or in my case, how I told, and this is when I was living in Colombia in South America, and we gringos decided we were going to have Thanksgiving Day, and so we got a turkey, and I thought brilliantly that if we stuffed it ahead of time, that would be a good idea. Well, it wasn't such a good idea. We all enjoyed eating it, but that was the last thing we enjoyed. As I said, the water bill went up a lot that day. But, so that's when my Thanksgiving horror story. We have a variety of those kinds of hopefully nothing like that for the rest of you, but many memories come together. For me, even though Thanksgiving was not a major event in our family, more emphasis was placed on Christmas, particularly on Christmas Eve. This is the first year that I have no parents anymore, and even though it's there's not a major kind of sense of loss, it's still there. It's the first holiday, and I guess I have much more empathy for those who have to go through the holiday season, especially when you have so many memories of the past of how wonderful life was together in family when you no longer have your parents, or if you've lost siblings. You know how that kind of is sparked when we get to the time because of the emphasis put on family and all of that. I think the people of God had to be reminded a lot about their relationship to God and how important that relationship was, and how often they were in danger of, at least from their side, of kind of chucking it away because other things took precedence. And so over and over again in the scriptures, they're being reminded of why God chose them. They're being reminded of how loved they are, not just how they were, but how they are loved by God. And that love ought to bring forth from them not only a loving response back, but a response of faithfulness and ever of gratitude, which is what that reading from Deuteronomy is trying to bring out. That, the people understood that they had been through an ordeal. They knew that leaving Egypt was not a simple event, and that because of the kinds of things that had happened along the way, that they were fortunate that God didn't just wipe them out, as he said a couple of times to Moses during the Exodus, I'll destroy this people and then I'll make of you a great nation. And how Moses, begged God, to change his mind, and so God, changed his mind. But what Moses was trying to point out to them was the importance of understanding that their very lives, the country that they had, that they were going to inherit again, the land, the produce of that land, the very fact that they could do anything at all to bring forth something from the soil, to have a life together in a community, to have a shared identity, all of that was God's gift to them. And that this gift of God to them was something they needed to acknowledge. And that's why the emphasis on the first fruits, you know, when the first fruits appear, the best of that has to be given in thanksgiving to God, because God is the one who has given it all. God's the one who made it possible. Their human labor was involved, certainly. They were kind of co-creators with God in that sense. But that they always had to acknowledge that there was one greater, a greater giver. As I said in my talk the other night, that was on Paul's letter, where he calls God, you know, when he says that, you know, you need to be a cheerful giver. And I said that God was the first cheerful giver. God gave willingly, God gave freely, God gave lovingly, God gave with joy, and God continues to give lovingly and freely and cheerfully to us, even though we may not ever deserve it, even though we aren't always grateful for what we receive, even though at times we can forget that God has anything to do with what we're doing. And that reminds me of that story you've heard, some of you have heard me tell before on previous Thanksgivings about The Simpsons and the cartoon. And in the cartoon, one of the episodes of Thanksgiving, Bart is chosen, the son Bart is chosen to pray the grace. And he's saying, well, God, you know, thank you for today, but I don't know why we're thanking you, because we did all the work here. You didn't do anything. So I guess we should say thanks for nothing. And they said it better than that, but it was still that kind of sentiment that a lot of people have. You know, that, well, my labor bought this food, or, you know, our collective work did all of these things. So what's to thank God for? I should thank the cook. I should thank my family that bought this food. I should thank this one for, you know, thank them for coming and all of that. And all of that's true. You know, we should be grateful to everybody who graces our table, who makes it possible for us to you know, celebrate together today. But ultimately, we need to give thanks to God, because there's nothing that we have, not even our own lives, that we brought forth on our own. That everything is a result of the loving, compassionate, giving love of this God of ours, who wants nothing more than to share his very life with us now and forever. Now, when Jesus in the gospel today is addressing the people who chase him down after the miracle of the loaves and fishes, he tells them the truth. You know, he said, you're only following me because you got a free lunch. You know, you don't understand. You know, you should work for the food that's imperishable, that the Son of Man can give you. And because they still don't quite get it, you know, and they don't acknowledge Jesus as anything more than a miracle worker, they say, sir, give us this bread always. And then, as happens in John's gospel, the story kind of ratchets up as he says, I am the bread that comes down from heaven to give life to the world. You know, whoever eats this bread will live forever. You know, whoever eats this bread will never be hungry. Whoever drinks of me will never be thirsty. When you live a hard scramble life where you have to, really beat your brains out every day just to have enough to eat, hearing that somebody could give this to you would be, a miraculous and marvelous thing, and you'd want to be with this person who could provide all of this. But of course, Jesus is trying to bring them to a higher level. Jesus is trying to show them that, no, it's not just your belly that you need to be concerned about, as important as taking care of that need of eating is. But you need to be concerned about deeper things. You need to be concerned about the ultimate meaning of your life. You need to be concerned about the ultimate meaning of your relationships. You need to be concerned, really, truly, about what is the most important part of your human existence. And this is what he continued to try to teach them. And as that chapter 6 of John's Gospel goes on, we see that the more he speaks about it and the more he tells them that they need to eat his flesh and they need to drink his blood so that they can have life in them, the more they misunderstand, and the bulk of them turn away and reject it because they think Jesus is talking about cannibalism. So they miss out on what we're privileged to share in, which is Christ giving himself to us under the form of the bread and the wine in the Holy Eucharist. The food that he gives us on this day in response to our prayer of thanks is his way, again, of being the cheerful giver who is giving us the bread of life and the cup of salvation, who is giving us his grace and his love in abundance, who does it for us every day. But when we celebrate the Holy Eucharist, we are given the gift in a particular way so that that gift can continue to nourish us, strengthen us, encourage us, give us the strength to love, to care, to forgive, to be compassionate and understanding ourselves, that we can become more living Christs to the people who are around us because of our union with him. So this celebration today on Thanksgiving Day, hopefully at some point, even beyond our time together, will lead us to a private moment of giving thanks to God for his love, for calling us to be part of his people, for the way he continues to give to us every day, how he gives us his love and gives us his protection and he gives us his mercy, and how he asks us to share those gifts also with the people who are around us. So make it truly a day of thanksgiving. And perhaps every mouthful of food can be a reminder to us, again, not only of God's generosity, but of the love that lies behind it, and ultimately the cheerful giver who calls us to imitate him.